Okay. Well, you've heard one side of the discussion. I'm glad we had a geometrical and topological opening there, because that will actually play a very crucial role in our side as well. As Professor Sadoway mentioned, I'm principally an historian these days, historian of Cold War science. And I was especially pleased to be invited to talk this evening, because it's actually, I've been working on this exact topic for years. My tenure case, currently going through academic council, rests on this. I hope you're listening. Those who should be. The story actually goes back quite a ways, in my story at least, to the immediate post-World War II era. This was a time of serious things involving serious people. Absolutely unlike, for example, this evening. So, there was a moment of crucial decision-making that the nation faced, only we didn't know we faced it at the time. A top-secret council, the General Advisory Committee to the Atomic Energy Commission, held a top-secret meeting in late October, in fact, Halloween of 1949. Included in this General Advisory Committee were people like J. Robert Oppenheimer, the so-called father of the atomic bomb, the scientific director of wartime Los Alamos. Also included was Isidore Rabi, a Nobel laureate in physics, a good friend of soon-to-be President Dwight Eisenhower. This gentleman on the end here, James Conant, who had been one of the overseers of the entire Manhattan Project during World War II. He was also, at the time, best known for being president of a sort of small finishing school in western Cambridge, Hastford, Harvard. But it's surely not a place of lasting historical significance. But in any case, he was on this committee. And their task was to advise the President of the United States, Harry S. Truman, whether or not the nation should pursue a crash course development in the H-bomb. Now, this meeting was top secret at the time, shrouded in mystery for decades. Through gradual government declassification and dogged use by myself, and indeed some trusted colleagues, of the Freedom of Information Act, we have pried open several secrets. We now know several things that went on at this meeting. We know the points of contention, the terms of debate. Most important, we now know what the H stood for in H-bomb. The first question the first question this top secret committee had to face was, could such a thing be built? Now, then as now, they knew it involved fusion. Did that go too fast? Do you want to see that again? But would it work? And here again we see the menacing topology that Professor Jerrison I'm grateful to him for stepping into this. See, you can't do that with latkes, as I think anyone would know. Would it work? Well, the question became of immediate concern. Another member of the committee, Enrico Fermi, calculated to his satisfaction that in fact it would not work. Now, I don't need to go through the derivation. I think that's clear enough. But his conclusion was that in fact we could never cook the ingredients hot enough, in essence. Moreover, in the second part of his conclusion, this should not be pursued, even if it could be pursued. This would be, in his famous words, an evil thing considered in any light. Morally, it shouldn't be done. Physically, hopefully, it can't even be done. And indeed, he swayed the other members of the General Advisory Committee to advise against the crash course development of the H-bomb. Of course, as we know, the story did not end there. About 18 months, not quite 2 years later, Edward Teller, the physicist, the mathematician Stan Ulam, they were working on this problem. We know from whence they came. And they devised what is to say a top-secret plan for a workable recipe, if you will, that they could get this H-bomb to work. Now, obviously, this is not the forum in which I could reveal such things. These are still government secrets. The point is, upon hearing of this, other people who did have clearance, like J. Robert Oppenheimer, proclaimed, with knowledge of the Teller-Ulam recipe, this H-bomb was technically sweet. Now, this is a phrase that is stuck to this day. Technically sweet. It often has been taken to mean, and I will suggest to you mistakenly, that a technical solution is so elegant it becomes almost unavoidable. That there's a momentum behind the technical sweetness that means the technology takes on a life of its own. Woe be the person who tries to stand in its way. That, I want to suggest to you, is a radically misinformed interpretation of this very famous phrase. Now, as many of you in the room will know, Oppenheimer was subject to what was then called warrantless wiretapping. If you can imagine that that could have happened in such a distant time and place. He was hounded by political enemies for many years after the war, including constant surveillance by the FBI. Here's one example. He has a 7,000-page FBI file now available through Freedom of Information Act. You can't lie. These documents don't lie, people. This is a memo from the special agent in charge, Newark, New Jersey, whose jurisdiction included Princeton, where Oppenheimer now lived, to none other than J. Edgar Hoover, Director, FBI. Between this document and the other 6,999 that people, scholars have poured over, reading through the redacted or blacked out parts, we see this conversation actually had quite a different flavor, if you will. This technically sweet had nothing to do with what people have said. In fact, you can read the transcript yourself. It's technically sweet, but it has a bitter aftertaste. I mean, what kind of mashugana bakes with prunes? And I think this is wisdom from which we could still learn. Now, despite these well thought out policies by the inner councils of scientific advisors to the entire federal infrastructure, we now know the genie's been let out of the bottle, or, if you will, the Hammentaschen out of the oven. Despite objections from all his highest-ranking scientific advisors, President Harry S. Truman did in fact order the crash course development of the H-bomb. And since then, the world has witnessed nothing but greater and greater massings together to mind-boggling proportions of this fuel that can be used for good or indeed for ill. I see a photo like this, and I have to tell you, my bones shake. Because we know to what it can lead. And so I ask you all here tonight, my cherished colleagues included, to please, before it's too late, give Lacus a chance. Thank you.